It is 4:08 a.m. on the Byford Dolphin. Inside the pressurized diving bell, two exhausted divers wait for the hatch to open after their shift, 90 meters below the North Sea. In the chambers beyond, two more men prepare to help them through the transfer. On the deck outside, a dive tender's hand moves toward the hydraulic clamp release. In less than 60 seconds, all 5 men will be dead. This is the story of the Byford Dolphin in the North Sea of Norway in 1983. The evening of November 4th, 1983. The Byford Dolphin sits anchored in the Norwegian sector of the North Sea, a semi-submersible drilling rig working the Frigg gas field. Built in 1974, the platform rises 70 meters above the water, its derrick piercing the grey morning sky. On board, a saturation diving team prepares for another shift in the depths. Truls Hellevik is 34 years old. A veteran saturation diver with years of North Sea experience, he has worked the Byford Dolphin for months now, conducting the underwater maintenance and inspection work that keeps offshore operations running. Today, he is paired with Bjørn Gaver Bergersen, 29, another experienced diver from the Norwegian commercial diving community. The two men have been living under pressure for 6 days now, their bodies saturated with helium and oxygen at 9 atmospheres. In the adjacent chamber, Edwin Arthur Coward, 35, and Roy P. Lucas, 38, wait for their turn. Both British divers, they have spent the past hours resting in the cramped cylindrical space, breathing the helium mixture that gives their voices a high-pitched, almost comical quality. In 12 hours, they will take the next shift. For now, they monitor the systems and prepare to assist with the bell transfer when Hellevik and Bergersen return. The dive tender for this shift is William Cramond, 32. He stands at the dive control station, responsible for managing the complex choreography of bell operations. He has done this hundreds of times. Lock the bell onto the transfer trunk. Equalize the pressure. Open the hatch, move the divers. Close the hatch, release the bell. The procedure is routine, but demands absolute precision. At 9 atmospheres of pressure, there is no margin for error. At 11 p.m., Hellevik and Bergersen enter the diving bell. The cylindrical chamber, barely large enough for 2 men, locks onto the system with a heavy clang. Pressure equalizes between the bell and the living quarters. The hatch opens and the 2 divers move through carrying their equipment. The hatch seals behind them. Outside, a crane lifts the bell from the deck and lowers it toward the black water below. The descent takes several minutes. The bell sinks through the darkness, its external lights cutting weak beams through the murk. At depth, the divers exit the bell through a bottom hatch, entering the freezing water in their hot water suits. Heated water, pumped from the surface, keeps hypothermia at bay. They work through the night, inspecting pipeline connections and performing routine maintenance tasks. The work is slow and methodical. At this depth, even simple tasks require careful planning. By the early hours of November 5th, the shift is complete. Hellevik and Bergersen return to the bell, exhausted. The crane operator on deck receives the signal and begins the ascent. The bell rises through the water column, breaking the surface shortly before 4 a.m. Deck crew guide it into position above the transfer trunk. This is the critical phase. The bell must lock perfectly onto chamber 1, creating a sealed connection that allows the divers to move between the pressurized environments without exposure to normal atmospheric pressure. Cramond monitors the approach from the dive control panel. The bell settles into position and the hydraulic clamp engages, pulling the 2 units together. This clamp is the only thing holding the bell against chamber 1, the only barrier between 9 atmospheres of pressure inside and 1 atmosphere outside. The procedure requires the clamp to be fully secured before any hatches can be opened. Additional bolts must be engaged. Pressure must be equalized through dedicated valves. Only then is it safe to open the connecting hatch. Inside the bell, Hellevik and Bergersen wait. They can hear the clamp engage, feel the slight movement as the bell mates with the chamber. Inside chamber 1, Coward and Lucas move to the hatch, ready to help their colleagues through once the seal is confirmed. A second dive tender, Martin Saunders, assists Cramond with the surface operations. At just after 4 a.m., Cramond begins the final connection sequence. The bell is positioned correctly. The clamp shows engaged on his panel. The next steps should be to verify all securing bolts, then open the equalization valves to slowly balance pressure between the bell and chamber. This process normally takes several minutes. Inside the bell, Hellevik leans back against the curved wall, his breathing steady through the helium mix. Bergersen checks his watch, almost done. In chamber 1, Coward has his hand on the hatch wheel, waiting for the pressure confirmation light. The hydraulic clamp releases. Cramond hears it first. A metallic crack, sharp and wrong. His eyes snap to the pressure gauge as it begins to spin counterclockwise. He opens his mouth to shout a warning. The hatch explodes outward with a sound like a cannon shot. He sees a wall of pressurized air rushing toward him, carrying debris, tools, pieces of metal. The blast hits him with tremendous force. His body lifts off the deck. Then, nothing. Inside the bell, Hellevik feels the pressure drop, not gradually, instantly. The air around him expands in a fraction of a second. The gases dissolved in his blood for 6 days come out of solution all at once. There is no time to process what is happening, no time to feel pain. The pressure differential tears through his body faster than nerves can transmit signals. In less than 1/10 of a second, it is over. Bergersen experiences the same physics. One moment waiting, the next moment gone. In chamber 1, Coward and Lucas are standing at the hatch when 9 atmospheres of pressure finds a path to 1 atmosphere. The explosive decompression moves through the connected spaces at the speed of sound. Both men die before the sound of the initial blast reaches them. The entire event, from the moment the clamp releases to the deaths of all 4 men inside the pressurized system, takes less time than a human heartbeat. Cramond lies motionless on the deck, killed instantly by the blast. Saunders, positioned further from the hatch, is thrown by the force and severely injured, but survives. For several seconds, the rig is silent, except for the hissing of escaping gas and the clatter of debris settling on the deck. Then the alarms begin. High-pitched wails echo across the platform as pressure sensors scream their warnings. The control room erupts in flashing red lights. Off-shift crew members bolt upright in their bunks, knowing that sound means something catastrophic has occurred. On deck, the nearest worker rounds the corner and stops. Cramond's body lies several meters from the dive station, motionless. The transfer trunk hangs open, its hatch blown clear of the latches. Wisps of condensation rise from the opening as the last of the pressurized helium mixture dissipates into the November air. The pressure gauges on the chamber system all read 0. Saunders is conscious, but critically injured, calling for help. The worker keys his radio with shaking hands. The emergency response team arrives within minutes. They already know what they will find. A decompression event at 9 atmospheres leaves no survivors inside the system. The medic attends to Saunders first, the only person who can be helped. Inside the chambers, the scene makes the violence of the physics immediately apparent. The team documents everything, works methodically, follows procedures designed for moments exactly like this, even though nothing can prepare you for the reality. The rig's radio crackles to life. The installation manager's voice, steady despite what he knows, begins the notifications. The Norwegian Petroleum Directorate, the company headquarters, the families. 5 men were involved in a routine shift change. 4 inside the pressurized system are dead. 1 tender killed on deck. 1 tender critically injured but alive. The Norwegian Petroleum Directorate launches an immediate investigation. Inspectors examine the clamp mechanism, the control systems, and every step of the procedure that was followed. The sequence of events is reconstructed through witness statements and equipment logs. The critical finding is clear. The clamp was released before the system was properly secured. Whether this was human error, a communication breakdown, or a mechanical failure becomes the focus of detailed analysis. The investigation reveals that the clamp release mechanism lacked adequate interlocks to prevent premature operation. The system relied on procedural discipline and the expectation that operators would follow the correct sequence. But in high-consequence environments, relying on perfect human performance is not enough. Design should have made the wrong sequence impossible to execute. New regulations follow within months. Saturation diving systems across the North Sea are retrofitted with mechanical interlocks that physically prevent clamps from releasing unless all safety conditions are verified. Pressure equalization must be confirmed before hatches can open. Securing bolts must be fully engaged before clamps can release. The changes are mandated industry-wide and implemented on every rig conducting saturation diving operations. The Byford Dolphin continues operating for decades after the incident, finally retiring in 2019. The saturation system is completely rebuilt with the new safety features. The rig becomes a case study in diving schools worldwide, not for the graphic details of what happened, but for what it teaches about procedural design in high-risk industries. For the families of Edwin Arthur Coward, Roy P. Lucas, Bjorn Gjeiver Bergersen, Truls Hellevik, and William Cramond, the technical explanations offer little comfort. These were experienced professionals who understood the risks of their work and had every reason to expect that safety systems would function as designed. They were killed not by the inherent dangers of saturation diving, but by a failure in the system meant to protect them. Martin Saunders would recover from his injuries, but would carry the memory of that morning for the rest of his life. Today, saturation diving remains essential for offshore operations. Modern systems incorporate multiple redundant safeguards against pressure-related failures. Every clamp, every hatch, every valve operates under strict interlocked control. The lessons of November 5, 1983 are embedded in the design of every contemporary diving system. The physics that killed 4 men in less than 1 second are well understood. The challenge is ensuring that human systems never again allow those physics to be unleashed.